Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we get to take a look at the 5th generation for the RX350. This is the 2023 hybrid version. It's also the luxury trim level. It's finished off in Nori Green Pearl, and we'll go over the MSRP for this fully redesigned RX350 once we go over all the new specs and features and get this out on the road. So let's start off with what powers this hybrid model. This has a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that's paired with 3 electric motors along with the CVT transmission, pumping out 246 horsepower, 233 pound-feet of torque. That power sent through the all-wheel drive system, propelling this 4,400-pound SUV from 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds with a top speed of 124 miles an hour. Now, it also has a fuel capacity of 17.2 gallons. You'll expect to see around 37 miles per gallon in the city, 34 out on the highway. This also has a total range of about 40 miles on just the EV system alone, and it also has a wheelbase of 112.2 inches. Its overall length is 192.5. It has a width of 75.6, a height of 67.3, and its ground clearance measures in at 8.1 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for the all-new RX350, there's not a whole lot of major changes for the exterior. You're going to see a lot more of the interior changes here in just a little bit. But for the front end design, you will notice it still retains that hourglass design for the grille, although it is very subtle, the differences in this. You can see the upper section by the headlight housings isn't quite as defined as it was in previous models, which I actually like. It kind of hides the design, but still retains that similar look. There's plenty of cutouts too in that grille. The Lexus badge is also the forward-facing sensor. There's a camera underneath that, as well as all the parking sensors. And what I'll call the nose of it, just above this, has a little bit different of a design from the previous models, still retaining the hood lines though that connect it from side to side there. This also has the LED headlights with that triple beam design, along with the LED DRLs and turn signals, which are iconic for Lexus, with that point right in the middle of that housing. And then it even has LED fog lights down in the lower section and a little bit more cutouts. So like I said, very subtle, but I think it gives it a really cool look. Now, as we work our way to the side, this has a set of 21-inch wheels, finished off in a gray with a multi-spoke design to them. You will see a two-tone for the side mirrors with that chrome trim piece. There's a camera and a turn signal, more chrome surrounding the window trim. This even has a full panoramic sunroof. And then some very subtle lines running down the side. Fender arches are body colored. You can see that sweeping line going up to the rear door handle and then back towards the front door handle. Gives it a very clean look to it. I love the chrome that goes all the way to the back. It swoops very nicely for this rear end. Everything just comes together nicely. Where this has a pretty steeply raked rear glass. You will notice too, there's no wiper blade because of the angle of that rear glass. But this does have a body colored spoiler with the integrated third brake light. There's some gloss black trim to blend that in a little bit more. This has a backup camera with the LED taillights and the LED bar that runs right through the middle of that power trunk. There's all of the backup sensors and then some more trim in that lower diffuser. This can also tow right around 3,500 pounds, pretty adequate for this being the hybrid model. Now, as we work our way to the cargo space, there's 3 different ways you can do this. You can use the key fob, you can use the button right up underneath the X there in Lexus, or you can just kick your foot. You will hear it beep and it will open up. So we have the hands-free option both to open and close it, which is very nice to have. Now, for the size of this vehicle, the RX is actually now only a 2-row vehicle. There is no 3rd row option yet for this RX series. So with the back seats there and the amount of storage space that there is, it's actually a very decent amount of room. We have the speaker on one side. There's also some tie-down hooks. There is a little bit of storage up underneath the floor. This model currently has the Lexus floor mat. So if I lift this up and get that out of the way, you can see the spare along with the jack. You can lift this second part up a little bit higher, of course, to gain access to that. Not really usable for extra storage, but you do have this cover that you can slide open if needed. And of course, you can fold down the second row. Now, this is one thing that I'm not a huge fan of for this car. They are automatic, so all you have to do is push on those buttons, but it is a slow process to get those to go all the way down. I wish it was a little bit quicker, or you could do them manually. You just push on them again. Luckily, you don't have to hold them, but at least you have that extra space if you need it, and you don't have to put in the work to do that. It is a slow process, but it's nice to see. And then to close that up, of course, you have the same 3 ways that I mentioned earlier. Now, as we work our way to the back, you can actually lock and unlock this with the back door handle. Now, the door handle itself doesn't actually separate from the door. There's a button on the back side that I just have to push in order to release it. So it's interesting to see that. And then for the interior on this model, this has the Mark Levinson audio sound system. There's also a sunshade that you can adjust. A lot of storage in the lower section, along with the 2-tone for the leather design. And then this is the electronic button to release the door to get out. If that fails for whatever reason, you can simply just pull this twice, and that is the manual release to exit this Lexus. Now, these seats are white. They have a really nice design to them. Of course, finished off in leather. And at 5'10", I have a good amount of space. There's storage pockets behind both front seats, all of your climate adjustments. These are even heated and ventilated seats, which is awesome to see. There's some auxiliaries so you can charge electronics. And then right in the middle, we have the armrest. There's a little bit of storage on the back section of it, and then cup holders will open up in the front section. And then you can actually fold down this middle seat individually. So if you need a little bit more space, you have the option to do that. Now, I will say that pillar right there is pretty bulky, but I've been driving this car for about 4 or 5 days now, and I really don't have any issues with visibility. So it has a good design to it, even with that pillar. And then there's the full moonroof, which provides a lot of light. Definitely nice to have that. And then for the front door panel, it's just like the rear. There's all of the window adjustments, side mirror adjustments too, which are power folding, and then a lot more storage. And for these seats, they actually have a combination of leather and some suede. So it's a nice 2-tone design, even though it all looks the same color. All of the automatic adjustments are down on the side. And then moving on to the steering wheel, you'll see the wood trim accents. The rest of it is solid leather. And then we have the controls on both sides, of course, along with the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. Like I said earlier, this is a CVT transmission, so it's interesting that you can shift through the gears for that. But let's fire the all-new 350 up with my foot on the brake. Let's bring this to life. And then looking at the gauge cluster, on each side of the digital screen, you will see the engine temperature as well as the fuel level. And then you have a lot of info to go through within that screen. What's interesting about the buttons on the steering wheel, though, is that you don't know what these buttons do unless you look up at the head-up display. So there's a button on the backside here that you can toggle through depending on what you would like to see. So by explaining this side for you, currently, if I hover my finger on these 4, I'm not sure if you will be able to see on the head-up display, but currently if I push it down, that will position the head-up display. If I push it up, that will go back up. And then if I push on the left side or the right side, right now it is set up to go through this info. So currently you can see your average. There's also the average speed. You can look at the EV driving ratio, so how that system is being used. There's the radio as well as a compass. There's even a G-force meter that will also pull up your braking and your accelerating. And then the last one is a blank page. You can also go to the very beginning where it will show the adaptive cruise control, and then we are back to those settings. And then if you want to go into the adaptive cruise control, simply push on this button, where now if I hover my fingers on this, if I can get this to focus, if I push down on it, that is for the mode. Pushing on the left is the following distance. So that is how you can control your distance with the vehicle in front of you. And then you also have your lane keeping assist and then another control to activate the cruise control. So currently it's unavailable because we are in drive at the moment, but it is very cool to see that. Not even pushing the buttons, if I just swipe my finger across it, I can go through all of those different buttons. And then it's the same with all of the controls on the left side. So there's volume right here, and then by using these again, it will pop up on the head-up display where I can push up for Bluetooth, down for voice commands, left or right for tuning. And if I push on it again, now we have mode controls. So audio is at the bottom where I can turn it on and off, and then we can go through different modes as well as change the stations there. So it took me a little bit to get used to, but I really like it. So nothing pops up in the gauge cluster itself. It is all in the head-up display, which actually for me made me pay attention a little bit more. You can just have your hands doing like this, and then while you are looking forwards, you can see exactly what you need to change. And then we do have the sensor here, which will detect if you are paying attention while you are driving. Now on this left side, there is a little bit of a storage bin where you can place some items. We have the fuel cap release along with the rear liftgate, memory seating adjustments, and then some odometer settings. And then new for this RX350 is this massive touchscreen system. This is a big update that I know a lot of people are excited about for this model. You will notice too that this black line right here, the upper section is the info you can go through, the lower section is all fixed. So if we start on this upper left, just by pushing on navigation, that is something if you have, of course, you can view there. We can get into the music along with your phone when that is paired. And then if I go into vehicle, there's the different driving modes that you can set up as needed. We have the seat controls where you can actually fold them down and put them back up from the driver's seat here. We have the driver assistance, your all-wheel drive, TPMS, and then the last one is settings. So you can configure this how you would like to and just get it set up the way that you need to. Now I will say for the size of this screen, it's still lacking a little bit of technology, but honestly, this is a huge update from Lexus, and I really like the design of it and just how it's integrated into this dash. Now in the lower section, you will see all the climates like the heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, the temperature controls are on both sides. You have where you'd like the air to go, fan speed, and everything like that. If I click on climate, you can actually pull it up and have a few of these going, just depending on how you would like that to appear, of course, and feel. And then you can even get into the rear climates if you want to adjust them from up front. Now, power and volume for the radio is a physical button right in the middle, and then we have some defrosters on both sides as well. So I think it is a nice screen. There is no more CD player for this RX350. So that is very interesting to see, and of course a good technology feature to be able to hook up your phone. Now underneath that, this does have the parallel parking, so if I push on that, you can of course use that when that is ready to go. And then this does have the 360 camera system. Now just by pushing on view once, this is not new for Lexus, but it will play this mini diagram here, just showing me that there is nothing around the car. So of course, if you can't see it from the driver's seat, now we can see exactly what's around this vehicle. And then you will notice there are two air vents just next to that. We have some more auxiliaries. This even has a wireless charging pad with a lot more storage space on that right side, some more auxiliaries, and then that cover is finished off in some beautiful trim. A little bit more storage space in front of that. There's two cup holders. And then as we take a look at this shifter design, in order to put this into reverse, I'm going to push it to the left and up. It's going to go back into that normal position, but we are currently in reverse, where this has that 360 camera system. So it has the top-down view along with the guidelines, and you can see exactly what's around this entire vehicle. There's also some settings that you can go into just to configure this as needed. Now if I put this into drive just by doing the opposite motion there, you will now see that forward-facing camera and the top-down view. To put this into park, you simply just push on the P, and then if you want to go into sport mode while you're in drive, just push it straight back, and then you can get back into drive by doing that. Now, if you do have to go into neutral for whatever reason, just hold it for about 2 seconds, and that will be neutral. So that is an interesting design to see. Now behind that, there's the traction control button, as well as an off-road setting. You can see a little tree there, along with some gravel or rocks. There's the auto hold, the electronic parking brake, and then the EV mode. So just by pushing on that, it looks like the battery is currently low at the moment. I have been driving this for quite some time, so I just need to drive it a little bit more to charge that because there's no external charger. This is not a plug-in hybrid, so the engine does need to charge that. Now in the middle, we have the armrest, which actually opens up 2 different ways. So you can open it up for driver access or for passenger access. That's not new from Lexus. It is still a cool design to see. And then there's a lot more storage space in that glove box. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this does have the full panoramic sunroof, so I can use that control for that to open up all the way to the rear passengers, providing a lot of light. This also has the dome lights on both sides, which are touch sensitive. And then we have a few other controls for the sunroof as well. And then new for the RX350 is the digital camera in the rear view mirror. This is very beneficial, I have found, because of that rear glass there. And if the headrests are up, you have a lot more visibility. Not to say it's bad with it down, but it is nice to have that option, and I think it's a great touch. As we set off now behind the wheel for the all-new Lexus RX350, this has an MSRP right around $64,000. Now that does have some options, so this is not a base model, and the luxury trim level, even being the hybrid, is kind of in the middle of the 350 lineup. So there are 2 more additional trim levels that you can go with if you want some more features and some more functions from your Lexus. But for $65,000, I think that's a little bit steep for this car, but I will say that I do like the updates that have been incorporated into this all new design. So for like the engine, we have a really nice power plant there with the hybrid system, and we even have this new screen. Aside from that, it's a phenomenal vehicle. I've been driving it for around 5 days now. It is so comfortable and smooth. I like the technology that it has to offer in monitoring your face to make sure that you are paying attention, of course. I've gotten very used to all of these controls on each side of the steering wheel and looking at the head-up display in order to go through all of those, and it's so nice. The MPG is crazy because I've used a quarter tank in 5 days of driving this every single day. So I have a lot more miles to put on this car before a full tank will be used. But I think it's a little bit steep when you compare to some other brands that for the mid 60, let's say 55, 65K, you can get a few more technology features for that same price. Now, this could be missing some features that are going to be in the higher trim levels, like I mentioned earlier. So some of those you might be able to get. I haven't looked at some of those. But we do have a hybrid system too, which is going to add to that cost slightly, having that system, having the electric motors. So it's kind of a toss-up between if you want a different vehicle that doesn't have this powertrain in tech, or you want this powertrain in tech and maybe a little bit less elsewhere. So I would, well, now that I talk it out, I can kind of see where that value is in that hybrid technology. But with this CVT transmission, let's use these paddle shifters from third gear. You can use them if you want to. This is not a performance-oriented version by any means. If you want to get their more performance-oriented version, you have to go to the RX500F Sport. So if you want additional performance, you can do that. This is not really geared towards, nor is it trying to be, a performance-oriented vehicle. This is a luxury-style Lexus that is just going to give you the ride that you are looking for. If you want to use the paddles, they're there. Most of the time, I bet you they're probably not going to be used. But let's give it another acceleration in just the normal setting from sport mode. This is the first time that I've actually kind of gunned this car, so I could get my first initial impressions. That's pedal to the floor. It's adequate, but I will say, for the lack of performance, if someone buying this car is not looking for the performance, so I shouldn't really be talking about performance by any means. I am incredibly impressed though with the MPG. On paper, 37 in the city. And the reason that it's higher in the city than the 34 I mentioned on the highway is because this EV system has a maximum speed limit. From what I have found, the max speed limit is about 25 miles an hour. So when you are in those stop and go situations, you're in heavy traffic, maybe it's heavy traffic on the highway, you have the EV system to take over instead of using the gasoline engine. So under 25 miles an hour, I can push on it right now. We can go into EV mode and just cruise around this parking lot and use that. It's pretty cool technology. I do like it. Wow, the turning radius is pretty good on this too. I do like it. It's not a plug-in hybrid, so the range for it is only the 40 miles like I mentioned. You can also get a plug-in hybrid version for the RX350. So if you're looking for that, it's an option as well. But for the EV mode and this hybrid, I think it's pretty cool that you can just go to the EV setting. If you're in traffic, you don't have to hear the engine as much. Not that it's loud in general, but that's cool technology. It's definitely nice to see that additional powertrain option available for this all new 5th generation. And with a mild acceleration, here we go. And pedal to the floor, we are up to speed. But for the all new 5th generation RX350, right around the mid 60 grand mark for this trim level, you could probably get into an RX350 for the mid 40s, high 40s or so. Not going to have quite as much tech, of course, and then you can also go to trim levels higher if you want a little bit more tech. So kind of in the middle here with the hybrid system. I do truly like this. I love all the materials. I like the design of everything. I love the massive size for this screen. It's incorporated very nicely into this dash, and it has some nice materials and features for this style of vehicle. We have the full moonroof, we have the camera system. It's a nice place to be. I like how they've ditched the CD player. They've also ditched that trackpad system to go through everything, and they had that because most of their screens were not touch screen. So it's nice to see the updates for the touchscreen system, a little bit cleaner design down below. And we have a very nice driving vehicle. It's going to be very reliable because it's Lexus Toyota, and I really don't have a lot of major complaints with it. It's a nice vehicle for the price, maybe a little bit high. You get the hybrid system though, so that's something to factor in, but I think it's a really nice vehicle. Plenty of space in the back. I've been driving it, like I said, about a week or so, and I've really had no issues with driving it and using it for the purposes of being a daily driver. So I think that is really nice to see. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this all new 5th gen for the 2023 Lexus RX350h Luxury. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.